It should surprise no one that the death of Barnes at the hands of a police officer would lead to a lawsuit. Barnes' mother sued Felix on Barnes' behalf, alleging that Felix violated Barnes' Fourth Amendment right against excessive force. Except the Fourth Amendment doesn't say anything about excessive force, unless she claimed that the force used made the seizure unreasonable. The district court granted summary judgment to Felix, applying the Fifth Circuit moment of threat rule. The Court of Appeals affirmed, explaining that the moment of threat rule requires asking only whether an officer was in danger at the moment of threat that resulted in his use of deadly force. Under the rule, events leading up to the shooting are not relevant. Here, the precise moment of threat was the 2 seconds when Felix was clinging to a moving car. Because Felix could then have reasonably believed his life was in danger, the panel held the shooting was lawful. And once again, we see the courts making up a rule that is both irrational and unreasonable. Take this case, for example. The district court said that the moment of threat was the 2 seconds when Officer Felix was clinging to the car. They completely ignored the fact that the officer put himself in that situation when he jumped on the car. And that's just the beginning. The moment of threat rule applied below prevents that sort of attention to context, and thus conflicts with the court's instruction to analyze the totality of the circumstances. By limiting their view to the 2 seconds before the shooting, the lower court could not take into account anything preceding that final moment. So, for example, they could not consider the reasons for the stop or the earlier interactions between the suspect and officer. And because of that limit, they could not address whether the final 2 seconds of the encounter would look different if set in a longer time frame. The traffic stop was for an alleged toll violation, hardly a dangerous threat to others. Yes, during the stop, Barnes did help escalate the officer's tension by not having his identification on him, by rummaging through his stuff, and of course, driving off. But does that lead a reasonable person to conclude that it's also reasonable that Mr. Barnes was a danger to others? A rule like that, which precludes consideration of prior events in assessing a police shooting, is not reconcilable with the fact-dependent and context-sensitive approach this court has prescribed. A court using a use of force case cannot review the totality of the circumstances if it has put on chronological blinders. How can a court consider the reasonableness of the use of force without the context in which it was used? After all, you wouldn't consider the shooting of someone while ignoring the fact that they had broken into a home while armed.